Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be reviewing an article in The Cradle, which is, as many people on this channel know, a favorite of this channel. I love going over the articles on The Cradle. I encourage you to go read articles further on The Cradle. We can't go over all of them here. And the author of this article is Pepe Escobar, who, again, is another favorite of this channel. I'm an admirer of his work. And this article is on Russia's public pivot to Palestine. And so if you know your history, you know that the Soviet Union used to be very pro-Islam, very pro-Arabic world. And the United States was very pro-Israel. And that changed after the Arabic world consistently lost wars against Israel, in which the Soviet Union took a more balanced approach between Israel and the Arabic world. And I don't think that was a good idea because the Arabic world was growing more powerful while Israel was growing less powerful over time. And we see in modern times, Russia, the descendant of the Soviet Union, is recognizing that the Arabic world, the Muslim world more broadly, is extremely capable at this point. And there's actually a lot of benefit for the multipolar bloc to be supporting the Palestinian cause in this scenario, both for strategic reasons and for moral reasons, given the genocide that is going on. And so Russia is, as Pepe Escobar said, publicly pivoting to support Palestine instead of a more balanced approach. Okay, so the article starts by saying the complex, nuanced issue of Russia's geopolitical neutrality in the Israel-Palestine tragedy was finally clarified last week in no uncertain terms. We see Putin took no time to cut to the chase, detailing the official stance of the Russian Federation and the current geopolitical incandescence of two intertwined wars, Ukraine and Israel-Palestine. Okay, so this is actually really good for Vladimir Putin and for Russia, which is you want to show the parallels between these wars. One is the American-led encroachment on Russia's border and its attack on the Russian civilization state. And Putin wants to frame that together with the American-led attack on the Muslim world and the Muslim civilization state. And by doing this, he puts, as Alexander Dugin would say, the Islamic pole of the multipolar world in line on the same side as the Russian pole of the multipolar world. And so this is huge because if you had asked me, say, 5 years ago, I would have said that the two poles of the multipolar world to be concerned about that may join the Western pole would be a split in the Islamic pole between the Sunnis and Shias, with the Shias joining Russia, China, and the multipolar bloc, and the Sunnis, for the most part, joining the Western-led bloc, which would have been horrible for the multipolar world. And then the other pole that I was concerned about was Indian pole. And the Indian civilization state is very pro-America, very pro-Israel, which is going to be very unfortunate for them in the long term. But their government very much dislikes Muslims, and so that's the reason for that. So we're seeing that I think Russia is very successfully saying, listen, this conflict in the Middle East, it parallels the conflict that is going on in Ukraine right now. And that means that we are on the same side. And so you're seeing the entire Muslim world rally around Russia, which I didn't think would happen. Like I said, I thought the Sunnis were completely in the pocket of America, and that's not turning out to be the case. So this article goes on to say there's no justification for the terrible events taking place in Gaza now, where hundreds of thousands of innocent people are being killed indiscriminately without having anywhere to flee or hide from the bombing. When you see bloodstained children, dead children, the suffering of women and old people, when you see the medics killed, of course, it makes you clench your fist as tears well in your eyes. So this is what Vladimir Putin is saying. And so very clearly taking a side here, which is very exciting for me to see. I thought he would be more balanced here, but we're seeing clear dividing lines between the multipolar and unipolar world. So the article goes on to say the US-led coalition of chaos, then came a preview of the context. We must clearly understand who in reality is behind the tragedy of people in the Middle East and in other regions around the world who has been organizing this lethal chaos and who benefits from it. So Vladimir Putin is making it clear that the United States is the enemy of both the Islamic and the Russian poles of the multipolar world order. And I think it's a very persuasive, very successful case at this point. In no uncertain terms, Putin describes the current ruling elites in the United States and its allies as the main beneficiaries of global instability that they use to extract their bloody rent. Okay, so that's how he phrases it. I say extract resources, exploit the population. And it is these Zionist oligarchs that do this throughout Israel and throughout the Western world, and they use their cadre, their mafioso, to do that, to extract resources and exploit the populace all across the world. So he goes on to say their strategy is also clear. The United States is a global superpower, is becoming weaker and it's losing its position. Everyone sees and understands this, even judging by the trends in the world economy. The Russian president made a direct connection between the American drive to extend its global dictatorship and the policy obsession with promoting nonstop chaos. This chaos will help it contain and destabilize its rivals, or as they put it, their geopolitical opponents, among which they also rank our country, which in reality are new global growth centers and sovereign independent countries who are unwilling to kowtow and play the role of servant. Okay, so clearly you see here, he's trying to make a parallel between what's going on in Palestine and what's going on in Russia. I think that's excellent as a persuasive argument right now, and that's very helpful for his cause. Crucially, Putin made a point to repeat again to both his internal and global South audience that the ruling elite of the United States and satellites are behind the tragedy of the Palestinians, massacre in the Middle East in general, the conflict in Ukraine, and many other conflicts in the world, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and so on. So tell me, where's the lie? That's a completely true statement, right? And because it's true, it's very persuasive. Okay, so the article goes on to say Moscow aligns with the real international community. Essentially, what this tells us is the Russian Federation unequivocally aligns itself with the overwhelming majority of the global South, global majority of public opinion, from the Arab world to all the lands of Islam and beyond in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So Africa has had coups against the colonialist powers. South American and Latin American countries have come out in support of Palestine. There's clearly dividing lines for what is going to be World War III occurring. Okay. So, yeah, we see that Moscow is aligning with the Iranians, with the Lebanese. Okay. Well, let's skip ahead a little bit. So the article says that Israel, as an occupying force, does not have the right of self-defense, a fact supported by the UN International Court consultative ruling way back in 2004. There should have been a comma there. Okay, so we see clearly here that Palestine is in the right, given international law. At the time, the court also established in a 14 out of 15 judicial vote that Israel's construction of a massive wall in occupied Palestine, including East Jerusalem, was against international law. So Israel is nonstop violating international law, and no one does anything about it. Okay. So yes, let's skip ahead a little bit. So Lavrov of Russia, his priorities in occupied Palestine, what are those? Lavrov reiterated Moscow's priorities already stressed by Putin: an urgent ceasefire, humanitarian corridors, and a return to the table to negotiate an independent Palestinian state as envisaged by the UN Security Council within the 1967 borders, which would coexist in peace and security with Israel. So Israel and the United States will never allow that to happen, and that's going to put them on the outs with the vast majority of countries. And you're already seeing this with various votes that are occurring within the United Nations, that the United States is really on the ropes here. A lot of its European allies are not even really supporting it anymore when it comes to the Israel situation. Okay, so the article goes on to say Palestinians are being condemned to an eternal existence without rights. This will ensure neither peace nor security in the region. It will only drive the conflict deeper. And you won't be able to drive it deep. The next grapes of wrath will be sown, which will quickly sprout, okay? So saying that the conflict will be eternal if the Palestinians aren't given a state. It's not about Gaza, but about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The state of Palestine is an integral part of that solution. Okay, so Russia is trying to sow the seeds to exercise the role of a trusted mediator for all parties in the Israel-Palestine. I don't know if they're doing that because they're coming out so in favor of Palestine here that I don't know if Israel will trust them. But again, Israel would really only trust the United States because the United States would be completely pro-Israel. And so at this point, I'm not sure who would be a good mediator. Probably China. China's been a little bit more moderate in its response. And so that's clearly like the right and left hand of the multipolar world, Russia and China. So whenever Russia can't do something such as being a mediator here, I think China can take over that role. So really excellent to have both of them there. Okay, so the article goes on to say multipolarity's prerequisite, which is peace in Palestine. And okay, so yeah, everyone wants to go back to the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative. Everyone in Russia, Iran, China, they all back the 1967 borders, but the Zionists are out of control, and so there's really no stopping them here aside from using military force. Okay, so the article says, meanwhile, a simple look at the map shows that for all the practical purposes, a two-state solution from the West Bank to the Gaza Strip is dead. It may be heart-wrenching for the leaders of the multipolarity to admit it. It will take some time and shifting of public discourse to recognize that the only viable solution is supreme anathema for the Zionist project of one state with Jews and Arabs living in peace together. That's what happened before the state of Israel exists. Jews, Muslims, Christians, they all lived in peace together. It was perfectly fine, but the Zionists came and they took over the country and made it a Jewish supremacist country, a Zionist supremacist country. And so, yeah, I think right now, Russia and China are following the majority sentiment of a two-state solution, and I think they have to in order to take on a somewhat of a mediator role. But actually, I think public opinion right now throughout the majority of the world is a one-state solution, and that the apartheid state of Israel has no right to exist. Okay, so ending this article by Pepe Escobar, all that brings us to a stark formulation. Without a just solution for Palestine, tangible peace across the emerging multipolarity spectrum remains unattainable. The current enabled horror in Gaza shows that peace continues not to be a priority for the empire of chaos, and it will take Russia, with perhaps China, to shift the game. So Pepe Escobar, another very insightful article from him in The Cradle, which I encourage you to read his other articles. I encourage you to read other articles on The Cradle. We are big fans of them on this channel. If you found this reading and commentary of the article to be of help, of benefit, please leave us a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble. Please leave us a comment in the comment box below. I read all of them, questions, concerns, critiques you might have. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.